how's everybody doing tonight? It's been a whole week since we've been able to talk, and I'm so excited that we're here tonight together. And if you remember last week, it was a little bit different. We didn't use our book, but this week we're going to use the book I Am, and it's the 40 Reasons to Trust God is what the name of the book is. But before we get started, I just want to say happy birthday to Ezra. I know he's fixing to have a birthday, I believe, in 2 days. So Ezra, I hope you have a wonderful birthday. I'm sorry we can't celebrate together, but as soon as we get back together, we're going to have a big birthday party for everybody. How about that? Doesn't that sound like fun? I hope everybody's well, and I hope you're able to enjoy staying at home and also doing your schoolwork. I hear that you're doing schoolwork at home, and that's just awesome. I think it's really good that you're able to do that at home and able to enjoy that time with your parents and your brothers and sisters. Tonight, instead of a science project, I have something a little bit different. Do you like to hear kind of strange things that are true? Well, since I like that, I have got some things that information that I'm going to give you. Some fast facts. How about that? The first fast fact is, if you look into a bright sky or the sun, if you look right up into it, and you know it makes those white spots in your eyes, do you know what that is? That is your white blood cells. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? I never knew that, because I do that sometimes when I'm outside. I'll look up at the sun and I'll see the light coming really, really bright in my eyes. And that's what it is. When you see those white spots, that's what it is. It's your white blood cells. How interesting is that? In 1913, do you know what parents could do with their kids? This is way back in 1913. They could take their kids down to the post office and they could mail their kids to their granny. Now, wouldn't that be fun? All they had to do is just take them down there, and I guess they had to pay a fee, I'm sure, and then they would mail them to their granny, and she'd be able to keep them for a week or so, and then she'd mail them right back to the mom and dad. Now, that's pretty interesting, too. That was back in 1913. And an average person, just like you and me and anybody else, they spend 2 weeks of their lives, that's 14 days of their lives, sitting at traffic lights. Have you ever thought about that? How long you sit at a traffic light? That's a long time. 14 days? That is a long time to sit at a traffic light. You always think, oh, it's never going to change. Why doesn't it change green? I'm ready to go. Well, it takes 14 days out of your life that you're sitting in a traffic light. And did you know, sometimes we hate mosquitoes and bugs that fly around, especially in the spring and the summertime. I don't like mosquitoes, and they fly around and they try to bite me. Well, maybe we should invest in a bat. You know what a bat is? They live in caves, and they are just come out at nighttime, and they are always upside down in their caves. You know how many insects they eat every single day? Every night they come out of their caves and they eat 3,000 insects. Wow, that's a lot of mosquitoes and flies that we could get rid of. So maybe we just need to invest in some bats around here, you think? And then, you know what, this one's kind of weird. Goats have rectangle pupils. You know what the pupil is in your eye? Well, goats, theirs aren't round like ours. They're rectangle. what a rectangle is. You know, you're in school and you know what a rectangle is. That's kind of weird for a goat to have rectangle pupils. And this one I haven't tried myself, but I believe it because I got all these things off of Pinterest. So everything on Pinterest is true, right? Well, I should hope so. And in fact, I pretty much love Pinterest and I love to see the things that they have. Well, a diet soda, a can of diet soda, if you put it in a sink full of water, a diet can of soda will float. Where if you put a regular can of soda on top of the water in the sink, it sinks to the bottom. Why do you suppose that is? I have no idea, and like I said, I have not tried that, but that's what it says on Pinterest. A Diet Coke will float on water, but not a regular Coke. Maybe Mom or Dad will let you try that out and just see if that's really true. Then you can let me know. How about that? Okay, one more, and then we're going to get to our story. A tsunami. You know what a tsunami is? You know, that water that comes. We don't have those around here really, but like in the Philippines and where there's oceans and stuff, a tsunami can go as fast and wipe out land as fast as a jet airplane can go. A jet, you know, a jet that you fly in the sky, a tsunami goes that fast. That is pretty fast. I have seen some movies about tsunamis, and it looks like they're going very fast, but I haven't really ever been in one, of course, to even say that I know that that's true. But that is what it says on Pinterest. Okay, tonight our story is about dreams. Dreams and dreamers. Do you ever dream dreams? I do sometimes. Sometimes I don't remember them the next day. Sometimes I do. But do you know that God sometimes speaks to people through dreams? And he spoke to this one guy through dreams. And we're going to talk about Joseph today. Now, I'm sure that I have told y'all the story about Joseph and his brothers. He's the one that had all the brothers, and they weren't very nice to him. And his dad's name was Jacob. But something very interesting, there is such a story about Joseph and his dreams. And so tonight, that's what we're going to talk about, is Joseph's dreams. So I'm going to read part of the story to you. And here is a picture of Joseph, and we're going to tell you what happened to Joseph. So Joseph, and this is all takes place in the Bible. You can read it in Genesis 37 and then 39 through 47. All that tells you about Joseph. In Psalms 28 it says, Lord my rock, I call out for help. A rock is something very solid, right? And that's going to be an important part of this story tonight, is a solid rock. Listen to my dreams, Joseph told his 11 brothers and his father Jacob. In Joseph's dreams, they came from God. 11 bundles of wheat, and then 11 stars, plus the sun and the moon, all bowed down to Joseph in his dream. But Joseph's dreams made his brothers really mad, made him angry. Do you think that you're better than us? Is that what you're saying, Joseph? They asked Joseph. Joseph's brothers were already upset with Joseph. They were jealous of Joseph. Their father, Jacob, had given Joseph a beautiful, colorful coat. It had all kinds of colors in it. And his brothers were jealous. Do you have brothers and sisters that you might be jealous of, or maybe they're jealous of you? Well, all of Joseph's brothers were very jealous of him. Well, one day, Joseph and Jacob went out to the field. And you know, all of his brothers, they made sure that the sheep were safe. They took care of the sheep. And so Joseph and his father just went out there to check on them and make sure everything was okay. And then the dad went back home. And Joseph was left out there with his brothers. And you know what they did to Joseph? They grabbed Joseph and they tore off his beautiful, colorful coat that his dad had given him. And they picked Joseph up and they threw him in that well. See that well there? They threw him. Wasn't that mean of his brothers? Just because they were jealous of him? They thought that that dream that he had was going to make them have to bow down to him. So that's why they were mad at him, on top of his dad making him that pretty coat. Well, he was left in the well for a little while, and one of the brothers really didn't want him to die. You know, they didn't want him to die, or well, the little brother didn't. And so some traders came through town. Traders are people that swapped, like they had coats or things that they would, kind of like at a garage sale, where you swap back and forth. And so these people came through town, and the brothers got Joseph up out of the well. And you know what they did to Joseph? They sold him. They sold their brother to these traders. And these traders made Joseph a slave. That wasn't very nice of the brothers, was it? And so what they did is the brothers got Joseph's coat and they put some animal's blood on it and they took it back to their dad and they said, "Dad, the wild animals got Joseph and killed him. Here's his coat to prove it." Oh, his dad was so sad. He was so sad that that had happened to his son, Joseph. Well, the brothers lied, didn't they? We know we're not supposed to lie, and we're supposed to love our brothers and sisters. Oh, what mean brothers that they were. Well, anyway, they took Joseph to Egypt, and there he became a servant to these people that had bought him. And he worked for a very important man. He was a captain of the king's guards. That was pretty high up on the scale of somebody being important. But you know what? God was still with Joseph. God was with him from the time that he was very little, because remember, God is the one that gave him those dreams. God is the one that said they would be bowing down to him at some point, right? Remember that. Well, he was so liked by this captain that the captain said, "You know what? You're going to be in charge of everything in my house. You're going to be very important." Well, one day, Joseph had done nothing wrong, and all of a sudden, the king got mad at Joseph. Joseph still doesn't know what made him mad, but he threw him in prison. But you know what? Even though he was in prison, God was still with him. And Joseph wasn't upset. He thought, well, you know, I guess this is where I need to be, and this is where I need to serve the Lord. So he was willing to be a good prisoner in prison. So once he got into prison, the guards there, they really did like him. Joseph was a very likable guy, wasn't he? And so the guards said, "You know what? We're going to make you really special. We're not going to make you be like the other prisoners. We really do like you. And so, you know, we're going to watch over you. We're going to make sure that you're safe." So one of the guys had left prison, one of the other prisoners, and Joseph said that morning, he said, "Please remember me when you leave here." And he was a cupbearer, and he got out of prison. Well, the cupbearer, he actually forgot about Joseph until 2 years later. And the king had a strange dream. And he said, "I know who can tell you what your dream means." Well, the king he was concerned about this dream. He had no idea what the dream means. Sometimes we have those dreams and we really don't know what they mean, do we? Well, this guy said, "You know what? I know somebody that can help you figure out what that dream means. His name is Joseph, and he's in prison." So the king said, "Go and get him, go and get him. Bring Joseph to me right now." Well, he was sitting there listening to the king tell about his dreams. He said, "Tell me all about it, and God will tell me what it means." So Joseph listened very careful to the king. He said, "God is showing you what is going to happen. This dream that you're having means that there's going to be 7 years of good crops in your field. And then there's going to be 7 bad years where you won't have enough food to feed everybody." And so that's what your dream really means, is that somebody very smart is going to have to take care of your fields during those 7 years when they're making lots and lots of food. And he's going to have to know how to take care of that. He's going to have to know what to do on those 7 years when you're not going to have any food, because people will go hungry if they don't have food. "Well, you are a very wise man, Joseph," the king said, "and I really do like what you have told me. God must really be with you, and he must really want to take good care of you, Joseph, because I'm going to let you get out of prison, and you are going to be the one to take care of all my crops. You're going to be the one to decide how to store the crops so they won't go bad, and how to give them out so we'll have plenty for the 7 years that we're not going to have any." So during that 7 years where there was good crops, Joseph was very smart about what he did. He saved them. He didn't let people just take everything that they needed. He gave out just enough for them to have food and stuff for their family. He said, "Don't be greedy. If you're greedy, then the next 7 years we won't have food." So Joseph was in charge of all that. What an honor that must have been. He must have really felt good about being in charge of something so big. And the king really did like him. And so after the 7 years of the good crops was up, Joseph had stored all of this food in a place where only he could get out the food. And so you're never going to guess what happens. At the end of that time, Joseph's brothers, which he hadn't seen in many, many, many years, he had not seen his father in many, many, many years. And all of a sudden, people from other places and other countries were coming to Joseph to buy food. And one day, when Joseph was out handing out food to the people, he saw his brothers. He recognized his brothers, but they didn't recognize him. They had forgotten about him. They really thought by now he was probably dead. So Joseph goes up to them, and, he was just wondering if they would remember him. He was just wondering, "You know what, I remember what y'all did to me, but this is where it's got me. I am a very important person now." And so you know what? His brothers came up to him, and they said, you know what? We need food. Can you help us get food? And Joseph could have been very mean to them, and he could have said, no, I'm not going to give y'all food, because they didn't know who he was anyway. He could have said, no, y'all aren't from this area. I'm not going to give you food. But you know, Joseph, he forgave them for what they did to him a long, long time ago. And he still loved his brothers very much. So you know what he did? He showed them. This is a picture of Joseph and all of his brothers. He loved them so much. He gave them all the food that they needed. And he said, I am your brother, Joseph. They were so excited to see him. And they all started apologizing and telling him how sorry they were for what they did to him. And Joseph said, you go and get my father and bring him back here, and y'all can live in this wonderful country with me and the king. Do you think you would have been that forgiving if your brothers had done something like that to you? That was a very special time. And Joseph was a very special young man. And he loved God so much, and he followed all of God's rules just the best he could. And so God rewarded him for that. Look at all the wonderful things that God did for him. He had a wonderful life, even though he was thrown in a well and he was given to traders to be a slave for a long time. But God took care of him in every situation. And you know, God still takes care of us today. When you ask God to help you with some kind of situation, whatever it is, he's there to help you. He's there to take care of you. All you have to do is talk to God and ask him to help you in those situations when you have something happen to you and when you are worried or scared. You just have to go to God and you have to say, please help me. I need your help. And one other thing, remember I told you about the rock? Rocks are very, very strong, aren't they? So when you're climbing up a mountain, you know a mountain's made of rock. When you're climbing up a mountain, don't you want to stand on the rock that's the strongest and the one that's going to hold you up the best? Well, I do. I don't want one that's going to slip down. I want the one that's going to be the strongest for me. And you know, it's fun to step on a trampoline or something squishy and soft. It's fun, even on the couch, you know, you could step on the couch, but it's not real firm, and it might tip you over and make you fall. A trampoline surely will do that, especially if somebody else gets on it. So we want something very strong, and we want something that's going to hold us up. And God is that thing that's going to hold you up. So remember, when you're going through rough times, or when you need something, talk to God about it, because he's going to help you get through that difficult situation. Just like us going through this situation where we're all stuck in our homes, and we're having to do schoolwork at home, and sometimes you get a little bit frustrated with either your schoolwork or maybe somebody in your family. You get a little frustrated with them, don't you? You need to go to God and ask God to help you through that, because he's just waiting for you to ask him. He can't wait to help you. And sometimes we forget that, especially when we're going through difficult times and we're having a hard time. So tonight, I've got a few questions for us. And the first question is, what was Joseph good at doing? Remember, he did this a few times in the story. What was he good at doing? And the second one, why did Joseph's brothers throw him in that well at the very beginning? Why in the world did the brothers throw him in the well? Did the king think that Joseph was smart and that God loved him and would take care of him? Did the king think that about Joseph? And then the last one, did Joseph forgive his brothers for throwing him in the well? Okay, that's 4 questions. Some of you haven't answered the questions from last week, so I'm hoping that you're going to answer the questions because we still have those prizes, and we've got most of the prizes are going to be 100 points. The balls that I have, I've got a bunch of balls, soccer balls and basketballs, and those balls are going to be 150 points. And the fairy lights are going to be 150 points. So most of you already have 50 points. If you've answered the questions and you've watched the other 2 videos, you already have 50 points. So you're almost there for some of those smaller ones. Next week, I'll show you some of those prizes, because if you answer all these questions this week, you're going to have another 25 points. So don't forget to answer the questions. And tonight I'm going to say a prayer for us. And I haven't seen any requests. I don't think anybody's sick or anybody's hurt, except for my son. I did hear today that my son hurt his foot and he's on crutches. Oh my goodness, bless his heart. So we are going to pray for him tonight. And we'll pray for Ezra to have a wonderful birthday. And if any other of you kids have birthdays, be sure and let me know when it's coming up. I think I have all of you written down for your birthdays, but just remind me, because I'm getting old and I can't remember some of this sometimes. So just let me know if your birthday's coming up. Okay, let's talk to Jesus now. Dear Lord, we just thank you so much for this beautiful day that you've given us, for the sunshine and the warmer weather today, Lord. We're just so grateful to be able to talk to you and to be able to hear your voice and to know that you're taking care of us, Lord, because in these stories that we read about you, we know that these stories are from you, God, and we thank you for these stories. We thank you for Ezra and this birthday that he's going to be having. He's going to be 11 years old, God, and thank you so much for taking such good care of him over these years. And Lord, I pray that you'd be with Kyle. I pray that you would just help him, Lord. He's hurt his foot and he's on crutches. And oh, how I know how difficult it is to be on crutches. And I pray that you would just touch his foot and heal it and help it to get better really, really fast. And keep being with my little sister Sherry as she's broken her leg. And she's also having to get around in a wheelchair. So God, I pray that you would just be with these people and help them and just love them and help these kids as they watch this video tonight. Help them to know more than anything how much you love them and how much you want to take care of them during this time. And we just thank you for everything you're doing for us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, kids, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.